Hey YouTube, so today I want to discuss subchorionic hematomas in pregnancy. So I am currently 14 weeks pregnant, and when I was 11 weeks, I found out that I had a subchorionic hematoma. Now, let me briefly tell you what a subchorionic hematoma is. And I have my other phone right here, so I'm just going to briefly read one of the definitions that I have for it. So, this one says a subchorionic hematoma or hemorrhage is the most common sonographic abnormality in the presence of a live embryo. Vaginal bleeding affects 25% of all women during the first half of pregnancy and is a common reason for first trimester ultrasonography. That wasn't a good definition. I wasn't satisfied with it. Here's one. A subchorionic hemorrhage or bleeding, also known as a subchorionic hematoma, is the accumulation of blood within the folds of the outer fetal membrane next to the placenta or between the placenta and the uterus. It can cause light to heavy spotting, but it may not. So, that wasn't the best. Anyway, I'm going to I have a photo here also. So, I don't know how well this will show up. So, as you can see, this is the uterus. This is the uterus somewhere that the baby's in. I don't know how it's going to go. Okay, this is the uterus. And this is the baby, of course. And this is the... Maybe I shouldn't be trying to give the anatomy out. Okay, that's the little sac that the baby sits in. And if you can see right here, you have this big black spot right here. You also have another little small slit right here. Well, that is the hemorrhage. That's the subchorionic hematoma. It's just a combination of blood. So basically, I'm going to explain to you how mine is. So basically, let me just get back to the story. Okay, so I found out at 11 weeks. I woke up and at 5:30 in the morning, had a bunch of bleeding, but I wasn't having a lot of pain because the first thing I thought of was a miscarriage. But because I didn't have a lot of bad cramps, I was like, okay, well, maybe this is not a miscarriage. Maybe it's just, some implantation bleeding that I've heard about. Because actually, when I was about 6 or 7 weeks pregnant, my doctor told me, I was actually 8 weeks pregnant. My last ultrasound that I had at that point, my doctor could see a spot on my ultrasound, and he told me that I would get some bleeding. And he said it was just implantation bleeding. So he said, when I have this bleeding, don't be alarmed. Because it's going to probably happen, but when it does happen, it won't be, nothing wrong. Don't be alarmed. So, okay. So that morning, it was 5:30. I woke up. I went to the bathroom. I seen the bleeding. I immediately woke my husband up. I was panicking. And even though he just told me that at 8 weeks and I was only in 11 weeks, I was still scared because it was a lot. So, it's just, when you're pregnant and you see blood, it's an automatic alarm, and no matter how much you try not to be scared or not to worry, you will. So him telling me that was just like womp, 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 womp. It didn't matter. So I called out of work because I was getting up to go to work. So I called out. I got back in the bed and I just pretty much laid there and refused to get up until I got my doctor on the phone. And I came in. I went into my OB's office, and she did a quick vaginal exam. Well, she automatically thought the worst. She thought it was a miscarriage. She said she seen tissue, and she was just like, she thought she was getting ready to deliver some real bad news to me. I was scared by her reaction, and it was just a mess. But then she remembered that it was originally a twin pregnancy. So the tissue probably was from the twin. So just some tissue that still was there. So she was just like, you know what, go get an ultrasound right away and let's just see what's going on. So I left her office. I went immediately to a neighborhood hospital and got an ultrasound. Get the ultrasound done. Baby is doing fine. Heart rate 169. Little baby is just moving all around, just moving. And I was so relieved, like, oh my gosh. So, you know, the ultrasound tech just was like, you know, we see this sometimes, it happens, but from what she can see, everything looks good. And, you know, I that made me feel a whole lot better. I still was a little worried because, you know, I just didn't know why I was bleeding. So, but I was relieved. But until I talked to a doctor, I wouldn't have been 100% relieved. So, days to follow, I think, let me see. I think maybe 2 days later, my doctor got the results from that ultrasound. And they called me, and she was basically like, my doctor didn't call me. The physician assistant in her office called me and was like, well, she told me what it was. It's a subchorionic hematoma. They seen it on the ultrasound. Everything should be fine. She said no heavy lifting, no sexual activity, just kind of like, you know, take it easy. But everything was fine. So I said, okay. But just so happens, I was on my way to the doctor's office that afternoon. So I said, okay, well, that's nice. Thank you for calling. And I'll see you guys in a little bit because I have an appointment to get some blood drawn. When I go get my blood drawn, just so happens, something told me go talk to my doctor. My doctor scared the hell out of me. Like, she scared the living shit out of me. She was just like, oh my gosh, you have to be so careful. So basically, this is how she described it. This is what I was trying to show you earlier with the ultrasound. It just didn't work out. So this is, say this is my uterus. Say this is the placenta. Okay? And they're supposed to be attached. Well, my placenta is like this. This end is attached. This end is attached. In the middle is separated. In here, in the middle, is where the blood is. And that's where the bleeding was coming from. That's where the subchorionic hematoma is. Now, the bad thing about this is, if it was to get bigger, it will continue to grow, and then eventually, this end would detach, or this end would detach, or the whole thing would detach. If that happens, it would be ending miscarriage, preterm labor, or if one end or the other end was to detach, it could possibly affect the oxygen, the amount of oxygen that is delivered to the baby and other things. So that's scary as shit. I mean, I'm like, I just got a phone call 2 hours ago, and your PA told me that everything was good, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. I was terrified. So she said, well, you know what? We'll probably have to take you out of work. But I was scheduled for another ultrasound like in a few days. So she said, well, I'm going to take a look at that ultrasound. And once I see it, I'll decide whether I'm going to take you out of work. Got that ultrasound that next Monday. This was on a Thursday when I was in the office. That Monday, I had an ultrasound scheduled for just, it was my regular ultrasound where they just would check out the baby. They were going to just do all the measurements for the baby, check for Down syndrome and stuff like that. So at that visit, the ultrasound tech, which was a different one from before, she was able to tell me the dimensions of the hemorrhage because it was still there. So she did tell me, and she said it was, I believe it was like 3.2 centimeters by 4 or something. I can't remember the dimensions of it, but it was a nice size. Not the biggest I've heard of, but it was a nice size. So my doctor wound up putting me on bed rest, complete pelvic rest. So I'm out of work. It's been 3 weeks since I've been home from work. Basically just limiting my activity to basically nothing, just walking. Carrying nothing heavier than a gallon of milk. And just basically just taking it as easy as possible. No sexual activity at all. No stimulation at all. No fondling, no foreplay, no nothing. Which sucks, I know. But you gotta do what you gotta do. So, I haven't been doing anything. I'm bored as hell. It does feel good to have a break from work. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm starting to go stir crazy and I'm ready to go back. So today is Thursday, It's actually Friday because it's 2 o'clock in the morning. But Saturday I have an ultrasound, and and it's only just to check for the hemorrhage, just to see if it's getting any smaller, if it went away or whatever. And I just need to check on it because I want to go back to work, and the only way I can go back to work is if it's either getting smaller and it has shrunk to a size that I'm comfortable with, or it's gone completely. If it's still the same size or it's bigger, I'll be stuck here in this house. But really, to be honest, if you want to get your baby here healthy and safely, and you're in a position like me, the best thing to do is rest, because for my understanding, there is no cure for it. But there are people who have had this and it's gone away. And it seems like bed rest is like the main thing, and everybody's comfortable with bed rest, and it's helped in the past. So I'm just basically just trying to rest up and hope that helps. But it's scary. So if you are someone has this, it's very, very scary, but it's not the end of the world, and it definitely doesn't mean that your pregnancy is going to end bad. You just have to be careful and take it easy. A lot of people don't even know what a subchorionic hemorrhage is. It is very common, and actually most people have it and don't even know it, because it heals on its own. So basically, when it heals, it's basically your body just reabsorbs everything, and it just heals itself. So that's what we're hoping for. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and just if anybody is going through that and you search YouTube for it and you're looking for some information, or someone else who has had one, you found it. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them. Please like the video, please subscribe, and like I said, I'm here for any questions if anyone or yourself is going through this, because it is very, very scary, and pregnancy is already a scary thing, not needing anything else to make it even scarier. So thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.